There is so much buzz surrounding Doctor Who at the moment, and there are also so many changes looming within the next upcoming year. But with those changes, there's also so many questions that we have. How is Ten's face back on the 14th incarnation? How does he then change into Ncuti Gatwa for the 15th incarnation? Now really feels like a good time to just think about the directions the show could go into. So, with that in mind, I'm Ellie with Who Culture, here with 10 directions the show could go in next. Number 10, more Davies-era comebacks. It didn't take very long for Russell T Davies to restamp his authority back onto Doctor Who. With the announcement and the revelation that David Tennant was returning for the 60th specials, it's kind of fair to assume that more characters may return. And of course, we do have Catherine Tate returning as Donna Noble. You also have Sylvia, Donna's mum. But with those returning characters, it's easy to assume there may be more. I think Martha Jones is a good contender in there, especially with the whole unit involvement. I think she would make a lot of sense to return. Rose Tyler, although I do feel like that's slightly been done to death, so maybe not Rose. Who knows? But it's definitely something that is possible and likely to happen. So make sure you let us know who you want to see come back. If anyone. You might not want anyone to come back, but let us know. Number 9, Omega. Now, Russell T Davies always made sure to include links to the show's past when he rebooted the show in 2005. You know, you had the Daleks return, you had the Cybermen return, the Sontarans, the Master, but one of the Doctor's greatest foes hasn't been seen on screen since 1983. Properly. We're not going to include that tiny little cameo in The Timeless Children. Omega was one of Gallifrey's greatest heroes. He helped perfect the science of time travel. He shaped the Time Lord race as we know it. He faced the Doctor quite a few times over the years, but as previously mentioned, he's been off screen for quite a few decades now. But that could all change with Russell T Davies back. Now, for the 10th Doctor's final story, Russell T Davies brought back Rassilon, a legendary Time Lord that's on par with Omega. He hadn't been seen for a long time either, but he was presented in such a brilliant way that his absence didn't really make a difference. So, with the show going into this new era, Omega would definitely be a good candidate for a past character to return. It's a way to link to the show's past, but also introduce new audiences to the show's history. Number 8, bring Torchwood back. Torchwood was that first spin-off for the rebooted series, and it was very much a Russell T Davies helmed project. He wrote episodes, he was the executive producer, and it followed Captain Jack Harkness obviously back on Earth with his own band of people who were fighting aliens who were on Earth. It was much more mature than Doctor Who. It was very much promoted as Doctor Who for adults, and it was very good. It wasn't without its flaws, you know, I'll be honest, but it went for 4 seasons. They did kind of fizzle out a little bit towards the end. And obviously we do have a little bit of controversy surrounding John Barrowman at the moment, so personally I think it maybe is quite unlikely. But there is the possibility that with Eve Miles, you could bring Torchwood back and introduce a new group of agents of Torchwood. And of course, at the end of Miracle Day, you did have Rex Matheson in that kind of massive cliffhanger, so although people had very mixed feelings towards that Americanized version of Torchwood, there are possibilities there and storylines there that could be used to bring it back if that was something he wanted to do. Number 7, a more youth-focused approach. Now, after David Tennant's brief return next year, we will be moving on to Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor and Millie Gibson as the companion. Between the pair of them, we have quite a young cast. Ncuti Gatwa is 30, so one of the youngest actors to take on the role, and Millie Gibson is only 18. Ncuti Gatwa in particular already has quite a considerable fan base growing because of his work on sex education, and that is quite a young fan base. And with this younger cast, then, is the show then going to approach more adolescent issues? Is it going to focus more on kind of teen angst? Hopefully not, but it is a question. But at the same time, the show needs to still appeal to those existing fans. You know, you've got fans of the show from 2005. You've got fans of the show from the 80s. You've got fans who saw the very first episode in the 60s. So while you do need to engage a newer audience, you still need to maintain and appeal to the existing audience as well. So to be honest, I think Russell T Davies has quite a big challenge on his hands to find a good balance here. But equally, I think that this new cast are very, very talented, and I don't have any doubts that they are going to bring something really enigmatic and exciting to Doctor Who. Number 6, the Morbius Doctors. Now, as divisive as the Timeless Child story arc has been, it did bring full circle a plot point that was introduced all the way back in 1976. The Brain of Morbius was a 4th Doctor story, which sadly doesn't feature Tom Baker fighting Jared Leto. But it does feature the Doctor taking on a Time Lord criminal called Morbius who's seeking out a new body. Now, while locked in a mental battle with Morbius, the Doctor sees all 3 of his previous regenerations and some previously unseen faces too. Now, in reality, these were the faces of various staff members, but they were intended to represent the Doctor's past incarnations prior to his days as William Hartnell. Now, it would be impossible to bring back all of the faces that are featured in The Brain of Morbius. Now, you could recast some of them and have the Doctor cross paths with them, similar to how the 12th Doctor crossed paths with the 1st Doctor in Twice Upon a Time. Now that the Timeless Child has kind of confirmed this Brain of Morbius and these previous incarnations, it would be quite nice to just acknowledge them that little bit further. Number 5, the aftermath of the Flux. Jodie Whittaker's final full series was all about the Flux, an all-powerful burst of energy that was set to destroy the entire universe. Now, of course, the Doctor and her friends did stop the whole universe from being destroyed, but not before. Countless planets, civilizations, millions if not billions of lives were lost as a result of the Flux. Now, the aftermath of the Flux hasn't really been explored very much. What happened to the survivors? What took the place of those lost planets? Can the effects of the Flux be undone? There are a lot of questions. Now, moving into the new series then, you then have possibilities for the Doctor to go to some of those planets that were ravaged by the Flux and see the people who are trying to rebuild their lives after this destruction and devastation. And there's also the possibility for new planets to rise up out of the ashes of those ones that were lost, and even the potential for new species to be created as a result of the energy left by the Flux. Something as massive as a massive cloud of destruction and universe-destroying abilities can't really be ignored, and if it is left from there, it feels a little bit incomplete. Number 4, bigger productions, bigger stars. From the 60th anniversary special onwards, Disney Plus will have the streaming rights for Doctor Who outside of the UK. As of yet, it's unclear whether they will also obtain the streaming rights for the classic series and everything from 2005 until now. But let's be honest, they're not short of cash, so if they want it, they will probably get it. Now, the minds behind Doctor Who have already said that they want it to become a global franchise, and a deal with Disney Plus with over 100 million subscribers is definitely a good step in the right direction for that to happen. Now, exposure isn't the only thing that Disney is going to offer Doctor Who in this deal, it's also money. If Disney are serious about making Doctor Who a success, then they're not going to have an issue with pumping lots of money into it. The other thing that needs to be considered is, if there's one thing that famous Hollywood stars love to do, it's star in Disney projects. And if Doctor Who becomes a Disney project, if it falls under that umbrella, then who knows who might be attracted to the project. I mean, Meryl Streep as the Rani? Dwayne Johnson as Omega? The possibilities are endless. Some of them may be ridiculous, but who knows? Number 3, the Doctor's sexuality. Now, in Sex Education, Ncuti Gatwa plays the character of Eric Effiong, who is openly gay. Now, while the actor himself has kept his private life very private, he has become something of a gay icon because of his role in Sex Education. And of course, Russell T Davies makes no secret of his own sexuality either. And if you look at some of his other works, it's A Sin, Cucumber, Queer as Folk, there's clearly something to be said about the nature of a lot of his work. Now, while there is no obligation for either of these two to explore this in Doctor Who, it is a possibility. It is something that they might choose to explore. In the previous seasons, we had seen something starting to develop with Yaz and the Doctor, but that never really became anything. And so, is it a step that might be taken in the upcoming series? Potentially. Potentially. We know that Russell T Davies is a groundbreaking and risk-taking writer. And we know that Ncuti Gatwa has been in a groundbreaking TV series recently. So the two of them together, anything is possible. Number 2, the Fugitive Doctor returns. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding Doctor Who in recent years has been the whole Fugitive Doctor and Timeless Child story arc. Played by Jo Martin, this massive bombshell was revealed in Fugitive of the Judoon and kind of flipped the whole chronology of the entire show's history on its head. And then, of course, it was revealed that this incarnation of the Doctor was an incarnation from before the first Doctor. Now, some people really love this story arc, some people really don't, but it has opened a lot of doors for the show, and it is an avenue that could be explored in the future. And if it is, I feel like the Fugitive Doctor needs to be the first character that they expand on just that little bit more. There is still a lot of mystery surrounding her, and Jo Martin actually did a really good job playing the character, and I just feel like she was a little bit underserved. There's so much more that we don't know and could find out about this character, and if that is a storyline that is going to be reimagined and re-explored, she definitely needs to be included in that. Number 1, another movie. Now, this deal with Disney does open a lot of doors for Doctor Who. A Doctor Who movie, done well, could be really good for global visibility for the show. And with the right script and perhaps some big stars, it could actually draw a lot of attention to the franchise. Just so long as it's done the right way. The prospect of another movie may be a little bit triggering, but with a Disney budget, with Russell T Davies back at the helm, maybe it'll be good. Maybe it won't happen at all. But the possibility is there. And that concludes our list. If you think we've missed anything, if you have other suggestions, let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell so you never miss a Who Culture video. I've been Ellie with Who Culture, and in the words of River Song herself, goodbye, sweeties.